It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. Welcome to Election Night Coverage, New Hampshire 24, and live at our New Hampshire Night live coverage news desk is Gary McNamara.
I'm so glad I don't have to cover this stuff anymore. I mean, like, actually be there.
Oh, man, I saw the whole, pool where they're all kind of just sitting in the open area, and I thought, that's a nightmare for me. You people quit talking. Gary and I are doing a show. That's a nightmare.
Yeah, I just am. It's
yeah.
Well, I mean, I will say one thing. It's interesting to watch the just the media in general. Trump dominates whatever. Actually, if you look at the last three polls that we mentioned yesterday, the last three polls after DeSantis was out, I mean, it was like 27-20 and whatever.
Yeah.
The last three polls, he didn't. I mean, there was the train of thought that he was going to absolutely destroy her, and it was a lot closer. Now, 70%, some of the exit polling, 70% of the people that supported Nikki Haley were not Republicans.
Right. Yeah, and you had warned of that, all along the way, saying, look, don't read too much into her performance at New Hampshire because of that. There's no path to victory for her.
No.
She's not going to be the nominee. It's been clear to a number of us for a while. It's just that apparently nobody on the, so far, Haley campaign team knows it, or they do now.
The interesting thing is, when you have such a significant number of unaffiliated, but I thought it was interesting where they asked the question, are you MAGA? And 32% of the New Hampshire voters said yes, of the Republican voters.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, what does that even mean?
Right.
What does being, are you MAGA? Does that mean do I support Trump? Or do I support the policies, all the policies that Trump support? Because that's almost like, what that's like? It's like in Congress where they say, we would like to ask you and for you to give us your biography of your entire life, and please be specific with a yes or no answer.
Yeah, right.
It's like,
yeah.
Well, I can't. You ask me. And so when I love it. Are you MAGA? What does that mean?
Right.
Do I support Trump? Do I practice political idolatry? Do I worship any politician? No. Are there things that I agree with Trump? Yes. Are there things that I disagree with what he is proposing? Absolutely. But overall, as I said, in his one term that he had, I agreed with him more than the average Republican president.
Yeah.
But, the question itself, and I think the press loves asking that question, by the way.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, both. It's funny because the campaign loves. I think the Trump campaign and the Trump surrogates love asking it, and so does the mainstream media. But it doesn't get to the heart of the matter. Where do you stand on the issues? It's all we care about, and it seems like a significant portion of Americans don't.
Well, if asked that question, if ever asked that question, which I likely won't be, it's very simple. If you're asking if I'm going to vote for him over Biden, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
That's simple. And if you know anything about what I do for a living, and you can check out the show and the podcast to back it up, you understand that my approach has always been, I don't care who they are. Even if I vote for them, I'm going to hold their feet to the fire.
I love some of the Fox questions that they had with New Hampshire voters.
Mm-hmm.
When did you decide your vote? Or did you decide your vote more than a month ago? Trump 69%, Haley 26%.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Want total change in how the U.S. is run. What does that even mean?
Right.
I mean, what is that? I don't understand what that means. Again, what I find interesting in these polls, nobody gets to the specifics. Now, as you and I know, and you had said it last week, you just said, that immigration is now tied with inflation.
Yeah.
And it's something that you and I have gone back as the number one issue.
Right.
And you and I have gone back and said, yeah, but you're going to have, number one, inflation is there every single day,
mm-hmm.
and it's still a concern to most people because
right.
prices aren't coming down. The things that the
and
average
that's not going to waver as a priority.
Right. So it's going to be there. But when you have the thing about immigration, the reason that that's becoming more and more and more is exactly what we said when Abbott and even DeSantis started, sending, migrants to sanctuary cities. Yeah. We said the key here is you're going to have, now the national media may not want to cover it, but the local media will.
Yeah.
The local media in all these cities will cover it, and they have covered it, and now the national media is covering it. Even the mainstream media is covering it, and they're covering it each and every day, and the scenes that you see are just completely insane. And what I find interesting is when you think of Mayorkas last week in the impeachment hearings that they had, you have the Democrats up there, and I mean the Democrats in the House objecting to it and giving just bizarre analysis about it, but the American public sort of understands, and the Border Patrol Union representatives were very clear, we don't need more money.
Right.
Because what they want with the money is to do this. And I think that's got through to the American public. Democrats were trying to say, but we're trying to have comprehensive, what does that mean? What does that mean, comprehensive immigration reform? Are you going to close the border? Because most Americans, if you go to most Americans and you say, all right, should we have legal immigration? You probably have a split because Americans look at the immigration process and say it's completely and totally broken because of the open borders. But most Americans, in a time of not right now, if you ask them the question, are you for legal immigration? Like, your family came here or whatever. Most would say yes, a legal immigration where you vetted the people that came in to benefit the United States would be a good thing.
Right.
Which, by the way, is the immigration system in Canada.
Right.
Since the left loves to compare everything to Canada. But when you look at, and so most would say yes, but they want a closed border. You're not going to get, I bet you if you asked Americans, do you want the border like it is now? You're probably going to get, 15 to 20% is what I think the polling's showing right now, which is pure Democrats all the way across the board.
Sure, right.
And as liberal as you can possibly get. But most Americans aren't going to agree with that. And the pounding of it every day in the local media. Because you go to the local media and look at it. You go to the local media. I mean, I saw the one thing was in New York. They impounded all these motor scooters that were unlicensed.
Right.
And then, the stories, this is just not even searching for it, just going through social media and going through different, looking at the websites of different media that in New York, migrants going door to door asking for money. And so and any crime that happens, boom. And so the local media is covering it, then the national media is covering it now, and you can't win it. They can't win that argument.
Right.
And so, when you look at illegal immigration and when you look at the inflation, those are really the two big issues. There's a ton of other issues, though, that the American public doesn't seem to care about. I think Holman Jenkins in the Wall Street Journal pointed that out, where he talked about, Trump and, said, look, Trump says he's going to cut the budget or he's going to, balance a budget without cutting anything or raising taxes.
Right.
Well, that's not a serious opinion on that particular issue.
Right. Look, it's everybody is kicking the can. I heard Trey Gowdy comments. He was in New Hampshire. I heard him comment on what and we mentioned the president, whoever becomes president in 28, and certainly whoever is in 32 and is sworn in January 33, is going to have to deal with all these things. But I think it's going to be sooner than that. They're going to have to deal with it. And he predicted they're going to just patch it and kick the can down the road for the next guy,
now,
which they may do.
Now, this is just where he says, because his bad policies are mainly bad in a convention. This is about Trump. His bad policies are mainly bad in a conventional, indeed overly familiar Remocrat Republican way. I just love it. You made up those words.
Yeah.
Protectionism for special interests, spendthriftism, sanctimonious refusal to acknowledge runaway entitlements. And that's completely accurate about what Trump is, not promoting or promoting. We're going to balance the budget, but we're not going to do anything. We're going to take care of Social Security and Medicare, but we're not going to do anything. There are no plans for it. It simply is said, we are longtime conservatives, and we agree on immigration, and we agree on tackling inflation. But when tackling inflation, Trump's first thing he says he wants to do is increase prices 10% across the board by having a tariff of 10% for every single product that comes into the United States. I know we had a caller yesterday that said, well, he's not really going to do it. Whether he does it or not, it's what he's promoting.
That's the idea. The concern is that he believes it's a good thing to promote.
Right. And there is no alternative to Trump. There is no alternative. Nikki Haley wasn't ever going to, be the one to solve those particular problems. She's all over the place. And so this is what you're left with now. Is the Republican Party serious about tackling the problems that we have today, or is it more political idolatry towards a particular figure? That's just a question people have to ask themselves.
And how are they going to vote in the House races and in the Senate races? Are they going to? Yeah. Is the Republican Party going to vote with those priorities? Because whoever is going to tackle it, whether it's Trump or the next guy, they're going to have the political will, which means the people are going to have to scream loudly, "This is our priority." And I don't see that. Everybody seems to be right now in the mode, oh, they'll fix it.
Yeah. Rah, 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 sis, boom, bah. We'll fix it. We'll take care of it. How? We're not going to tell you.
Right.
It's almost like the thing, when you go on an interview, never tell the employer what you're going to do, because then they can do it and they won't need you.
Right.
Which, of course, is ridiculous because they're not looking for suggestions of how they can solve the problem. They're looking for you to solve the problem when they hire you.
Right.
So, so it's going to be interesting. I mean, but this, we've said it for a long time. This thing's been over for a while.
Yeah.
It's going to be Trump unless Biden decides to pull out. And Trump's not going to pull out for any reason.
No, he's not.
There'll be no reason that Trump will pull out. So it would only be Biden who would pull out. And who do you put, in there? I thought it was interesting the other day. Did you see the polling that we mentioned this, that Trump would beat not DeSantis. Trump would beat Newsom. The poll that came out. That was interesting to see that one. All right. Well, what if they get rid of? And I think who was the one that would be the closest? I forgot who it was. But yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see what's going on. But I see the Republican Party right now, and this isn't just Trump. This is the Republican Party as more rhetoric than substance.
Oh,
and that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, until the base changes.
Yeah.
Until we have a growing sentiment that is based in conservative values again, we're going to keep the GOP is going to keep moving further left. And that's the problem. I was thinking tonight, I don't know that DeSantis will ever be president. I think he's a good candidate, but I'm wondering if he's electable. If you think about now, this was a different scenario. Trump coming in had his base already built in. He's as good as an incumbent. So wasn't going to happen this time. But 28, well, that's a few years away. And the base of the rank and file of the GOP has also been moving more populist and more left. Conservatives are few and far between. So I don't know that a DeSantis, without becoming a Nikki Haley, and I pray that never happens, is going to be electable going forward.
And my view is conservative ideas implemented is what will help solve the problems.
Right.
Populism is simply saying, putting your finger to the wind, which way is the wind blowing? Oh, okay. Because when Trump talks about the fact of, okay, we're going to balance the budget, but we're not going to touch any of the entitlements, and we're not going to increase taxes, and we're not, well, that's a populist opinion. The American that's exactly what the American public is saying.
Right.
Don't touch anything,
right,
but doggone it, balance the budget.
Yeah.
Well, you can't do that. Doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
what so Trump is really just reflecting a growing number of Republicans who don't want to actually face the fiscal truth of the nation.
Who was screaming at him to get it done, aside from a few of us?
Yeah, nobody.
Nobody. That's where we are, and it's just like everything that happened in the House with McCarthy. You're not changing the makeup because you're not changing the base. You're not changing the rank and file.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Owner-operators can save a hefty amount of money by participating in discount fuel networks. If you're leased and your fleet has a fuel optimizer program, use it. Such a program helps plan a trip based on fuel prices and locations in the carrier's fuel network. The larger the carrier, typically the larger the discounts that are possible. Fees for using such networks have become rare thanks to competition for drivers. Owner-operators are well advised, however, to pass up network fuel stops that are too costly, are too far off route, sell inferior fuel, or are dangerously or poorly maintained. For independent owner-operators, a bevy of fuel discount networks exists, from a variety of traditional fuel cards to the National Association of Small Trucking Companies network and the younger mud flap applications discounts at independent truck stops around the nation. Research the options and discounts available to find the right one for you. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Immigration, number one issue for Americans. The former president did address that last night after his victory in New Hampshire.
So this was a great evening, and I want to thank everybody in the audience, and I want to thank the people that are standing behind me. You know, I think we called it right. Immigration's a big deal, a very big deal. We have millions and millions of people flowing into our country illegally. We have no idea who the hell they are. They come from prisons and they come from mental institutions, and it's just killing our country. And I'm talking about millions and millions and millions.
There you go. Which, of course, like I said, immigration, inflation is the strong points right now of the Republicans. But there's a ton of other challenges that the Republicans aren't addressing.
Mm-hmm.
Eight 866-90 Red Eye. Now's your chance to be the caller. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. So there it is. U.S. voters say immigration, not inflation, is top priority. New Harvard-Harris poll. Most voters are pointing to immigration as their top issue. In the Harvard-Capps-Harris poll of 2,300 registered voters that was released on Monday, the survey found 35% of respondents said immigration is their top concern. 32% named the topic of inflation. Immigration has jumped 7 points over the last month. The issue has been brought under high public scrutiny in the last year as President Biden's Department of Homeland Security has failed to control the border crisis. In December alone, 300,000 illegal immigrant encounters at the border. Followed by immigration and inflation, the economy and jobs were listed as a top concern by 25%. In fourth came crime and drugs, tied with health care at 16%. So I understand why the Republicans and Trump will say, yes, we need to balance the budget, but we won't cut anything, is the message they're sending, is because American public isn't even thinking about that. They won't think about the debt. You look at inflation, though. Inflation is because of the debt. Inflation is because of spending.
Right.
And so you may have the Freedom Caucus that talks about it, but there's a disconnect between the Freedom Caucus and Trump on what they would like to do. Freedom Caucus wants to shut down the government.
Well, yeah, it's who made the comment on the Freedom Caucus the other day that they get in the way of getting things done. They're getting in the way, and it was another Republican that said it. I'll have to go back and see. It may have been McCarthy, which would, of course, sound like something he would say. But the Freedom Caucus basically is that small group that represents the conservatives, the portion of conservatives that support the GOP. We're a smaller and smaller group every year.
Well, there is this huge disconnect inside the Republican Party itself and the voter.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem to understand where everybody stands. And we go back to when McCarthy got kicked out, and you had Matt Gaetz.
Yeah.
Matt Gaetz, and then we had a caller to the show that said the same thing. We need the toughness that Donald Trump would bring. Well, Donald Trump hasn't talked about cutting anything.
Right.
Donald Trump hasn't never attempted to shut down the government. He never vetoed a spending bill because his spending was too much. There is no indication that Trump aligns at all with the Freedom Caucus and what Matt Gaetz and others are attempting to promote as, somebody like Matt Gaetz talks about how much he supports, Trump.
Right.
And there's like this huge disconnect is that the actual specifics and the actual beliefs that you have, nobody's actually thought that out. Because when like I said, we not only did Gaetz say it, but then Trump came out and goes, no, I don't want to get rid of McCarthy.
Well, that's it. It was on the same day
Right.
that it was all going down, and Gaetz wasn't aware that Trump had posted already on Truth Social that it wasn't a good thing to do to get rid of McCarthy. Right. And a reporter cornered Gaetz and said, have you talked to President Trump about this? Well, yes, we've been in contact in recent days and blah, blah, blah. Are you aware that he put on Truth Social today that this was not a good move? No, I wasn't. That disconnect right there, that moment right there is a prime example of the disconnect.
And it's almost as if, let's just not address that.
Right.
And we won't talk about
Right.
that.
And you and I, by the way, are the only ones that have brought that about. I heard it happen live. I was listening to the radio when it happened. And after that, I thought, well, conservatives would be all over this. That moment right there was horrible for Gaetz. They didn't bring it up. No. You and I are the only ones that I know of, and maybe someone did, and we didn't catch it, that really made a deal out of it, made a big deal out, or at least covered it, because it shows the disconnect, because it points to what we have talked about. Until you change the makeup of the party, getting rid of McCarthy does nothing. In fact, it's gone downhill since.
And there doesn't seem to be any indication that Trump and his campaign, except for throwing out the normal rhetoric that we're going to balance the budget, but we're not going to cut anything. You know, that delusional opinion that a significant portion of Republicans hold, including the Trump campaign, that's delusional. You cannot cut the budget. You cannot balance the budget. You cannot get rid of the debt unless you cut. Unless Trump plans on drastically increasing taxes, which nobody talks about. And here's one of the things, because we sound passionate about it, because we know what's coming. Yeah. We know it's coming because of it.
Right.
And the Republicans, you have the Freedom Caucus, and, we said, they got to be careful, because if they do shut down the government, the problem is the American public says one thing but wants another. Well, there's a significant number of Republicans right now, and Trump knows it, which is why he's not talking about cutting anything. He's saying we're going to balance the budget. His message is we're going to balance the budget but not do anything, as if it just, through osmosis or organically is going to happen, and that's not the case. And that shows that the Republican Party and the person who will be the nominee are not serious about solving that problem, and that's the biggest problem that's going to be facing Americans, coming up in the next 10 years. Everything from Social Security on.
Yeah.
And if you aren't willing to do that, because if you sit there and go, well, immigration's important and everything else, and it's true, but if you have to cut the budget, as they're eventually going to have to cut it, a ton of things are going to go away.
Oh, it's going to be a slaughterhouse.
It's going to, and so that's the thing. And, I've done this too long to get excited about, did you see Trump? And there he was, New Hampshire. And everybody was, I don't care about the celebrations. I care about getting damn things done. And nobody, even MAGA, doesn't give a damn about it.
Where's the GOP voter on it? Why aren't we screaming as a party? Why aren't we screaming as the base of that party? Well, because conservatives aren't the base anymore.
Yeah.
They're a small corner.
It's populist. Let's go with where's the wind blowing today? Okay, here's what we're going to do. And I know it's tough for people, for people to take. And I understand everything. Look, we've talked about it. If it comes down to the binary choice, between Trump and Biden, which it looks like, I'll vote Trump. I voted Trump before. Doesn't mean I'm not going to criticize where he will not deal with the very, very tough issues out there. And the tough issues are the budget, entitlements, Social Security. Just saying we're going to solve all these problems without any indication of how we're going to do it is just a meaningless, political promise that goes nowhere.
Well, we've lined out all the choices we've made as a nation. And this will be one more choice. Until we're screaming about it, nothing happens. People are screaming about the border, thankfully, at least right now.
And you still see how tough it is to get things done there because the opposition doesn't want to.
On spending, nobody, aside from the Freedom Caucus, nobody's screaming. Who in the Senate is screaming?
No one.
No one. I mean, on the right, no one.
Maybe Rand Paul.
Well, but he's screaming every day.
Yeah.
That's a given. That just means it's Tuesday. But no, I mean, that's it. And by the way, I love Rand Paul for that. Except remember the salt tax thing. Well, my friends in New York and California. Whoa. What do you mean your friends in New York and California and all this thing, would be unfair or something? He used a word that liberals always use. And then we went back and checked. Oh, because in his home state, it would have a huge effect, too. He should have just said that. I've heard from the people in my state, and this is how they feel. Just make the case. I mean, I'm still going to disagree with you, but you got to make the case. And these are the things that we look at because in every you've got to watch everyone at every moment. It's like having, an assembly line where everything has to move, in unison. I have a brother who works for a company that makes PVC pipe. And when they start a run, when they start making, a batch or whatever they call it, they can't stop it. They can't stop the process because all of it has to be thrown out. So everybody has to be on their toes all the time. We talk about how the private sector has to get it right. When in the hell are we going to do that with the public sector, with the people that we vote for, that we put into office? And I mean the GOP that we vote for. I don't have any hope that the rank-and-file Democrat is ever going to scream about anything, although they are voicing their opinion more and more on immigration. We see the polls. But if we're not voicing our opinion, if we're not out there screaming about the national debt, screaming about all this, it means we don't care. And that's the only thing I can take away from it is that the rank and file, the majority of the rank and file, it's not on the priority.
Even though, like never before, we've been affected by the national debt.
Yeah.
Everything you've seen in inflation, everything that's made your life fiscally a living hell over the last couple of years is due to spending.
Yep.
And except for a very small corner of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Very, very small.
Right.
Nobody seems to care about it, including Trump.
Right. Nobody's screaming about it.
Nobody. No. And we'll scream about inflation, but nobody says, okay, well, what caused inflation?
Well, because
the deficit, the debt, the interest rates, the
interest on the
rates,
national debt,
the insanity of what we did by buying our own debt,
and
everything else, and keeping interest rates, artificially low. I'd be all over that if I was a presidential candidate for the Republicans. Nothing.
And I wonder how many people, rank and file, even care to look that far. The interest on the national debt and how much of it right now.
Yeah.
It's a huge chunk and growing.
And so you can't even do that because we even got recently, probably a year and a half ago, people go, oh, you guys are exaggerating the problem with the debt. Nobody says that anymore after inflation. Well, then what are you going to do about it?
Right.
What are we going to do?
You can't write it. They'll just write it off. No, doesn't work that way.
Thanks, Kramer.
Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Quickly to Randy in Ohio. Randy, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Gary, thank you so much for being there, and thank you for keeping me in between the lines every night. Gary, I want to say a couple of things. Number one is you hear the term that this isn't the Democratic Party of your grandparents. Well, this isn't the Republican Party of your grandparents anymore either. There's a handful of conservatives. The other point is that you guys I believe that Trump is concerned about the budget. He is concerned about the spending, and he's a great businessman. I just don't think he's putting it on the plate out there because I think it's not what America's focused on. Me as a voter, I want the border closed. Me as a voter, I do want the economy straightened out, and I know what you're saying. You're 100% right. We have to cut the spending. And there's so much waste in Washington, it's ridiculous. I mean, they waste money like it's going out of style because.
We're just limited on time. I don't. Everybody's aware of the government waste out there, but cutting government waste, because the majority of Americans, including the majority of Republicans, believe that if you cut foreign aid and waste, that you'll balance the budget. That's completely false.
Not even close.
You wouldn't come close to cutting it. Yeah. And so it's really hard. It's hard to do it, but are you electing somebody who's only going to show the concerns of Americans when Americans aren't concerned about something that's going to be serious down the road? Or do you want a leader who's going to address the problems and tell America these are problems that we have to face?
Thanks, Randy.
So far, you don't have that in the Republican Party. Well, except for a few.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Thanks to the last caller. Appreciate those opinions. And look, Eric and I, Eric had brought up earlier that Trey Gowdy was out there saying you can't run on a campaign of we're going to cut.
Yeah, that nobody wants to hear that. Yeah,
right. They don't want to hear that. They wish to live in the world that, yes, we know that the debt has caused inflation, and it's really hurt a lot of people over the last couple of years. And we need to cut. You just can't cut what I love. And so I understand Trey Gowdy saying it. I'm not saying that you campaign cut. What I'm saying is if you're a leader, you explain to the American people, you say, look, I can't do this alone, but there's a ton of things we need to do over the next, the next 10 years as a country. And we need to come together. And it's a challenge that I put out to Democrats and Republicans. You heard about that whole thing. They want to put together the debt group out there or whatever, the nonpartisan, debt group. Well, then you need to promote that. You need to promote it as something that's bipartisan. And I'm going to put together a group of what we need to do because we can't afford to do what we do. And I wish to keep the Social Security payments there for the people that get it, that are getting it right now. And we need to figure out what's going on with Social Security and Medicare so we can provide these benefits that are necessary to the American public. And if the math shows we can't get there because of as we have talked about, declining population and the shift, for example, of so many baby boomers and Gen Zers compared to the number of people putting in, then we need to find a way to save it, right? Mm-hmm. Sure. But when you say we're going to balance the budget, but we're not going to touch entitlements at all, nothing will change. You saw that Nikki Haley said that at one point, Trump had said, and I don't know whether she was referring to his book or whatever, because Trump knows it, because she said, he had said we need to, because she has come out, and Nikki Haley, and says we need to reform it somehow. Well, that's actually intellectually honest. You have to reform it somehow. To say we can't touch it in any way, you got to touch it in some way. Either you have to drastically increase the FICA taxes, you have to raise the age limit, or you have to cut benefits. There's no other way to do it. And so what it is what I want is from the Republican Party is a leader who you don't cut your own throat by coming in and go, hey, we're going to cut everything next year, because you won't get elected. Right. But explaining to the American public what the challenges are and not pretending that it isn't happening when we know that it is. Because when Trump years ago said we'll probably have to raise the Social Security age to 70, that means he understands it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And-
Yesterday, Larry Kudlow on Fox Business had somebody on, former Trump advisor, had one of the chairman of the committee that, and I forget his name, where they're talking about expanding the child tax credit again. And in the conversation, Kudlow's focusing on tax cuts and help for business and everything else, which is what the GOP on that side or on that issue is saying, well, on our side, we're getting, you have to give up something to get something. Yeah, but you're giving up a child tax credit that won't be rescinded. You're not, once you put this in play, it's not going away. Wall Street Journal pointed that out, saying, going all the way back to Bill Clinton, starting with a $500 child tax credit. It's not going away. So you're going to increase spending over here and cut taxes over here. And I thought to myself, well, Kudlow was praising the tax cuts, but why aren't you going after what you had to give up, which is not small? The tax cuts, get the tax cuts done, that's great. But if you're saying you have to give up something as big as that expanded child tax credit, it's not worth it.
When you don't have the money, when you look at, because what they're saying is, okay, what we need to do is offset everything. Well, if you have a policy of offsetting everything, that still means the projection of $2 trillion deficits every year is still going to be there.
Yes.
And so, but and this is the thing, we're supposed to be adults. And look, I understand. I'm a bitter old man.
I'm getting more bitter and more older.
I'm a bit, but understand the it's not bitterness, the frustration, the anger, whatever comes from the fact that I've been through this for the last half century, watching the politics of everything and all the promises.
Yeah,
and so they don't mean anything to me. A rally where everybody is cheering of politicians means diddly and squat to me. All I care about is future generations, and I think one of the most evil things we have done as a nation is take what we want today and put it on the backs of future generations, to put it on the backs of our children and grandchildren. It's the most immoral thing that we have done in the United States, I believe, when it comes to domestic policy through spending.
It was Jason Smith, by the way, that was on with Larry Kudlow on Fox Business.
All right, well, because he's the one that's
he's the chair on that committee,
right?
And it's no, to your point, the reason
about being
old
bitter,
men become bitter is because we've seen this crap over and over again,
right.
And it's frustrating when we don't learn a lesson. And now we're at the point of going off the rails. And guess who's going to reach retirement age on Social Security at the same year it's going broke? Eric. This is all about me, everybody. It has been for a long time. It's a true story. I reached one of my marks on Social Security about the time that it's going to be broke. Just my luck. But honestly, I'm not worried about me. I'm fine. I'm worried about a nation that won't, because also Social Security and Medicare are just a small part of it when we talk about the spending. I'm not saying it's small. I'm talking about the overall mentality that we have as a nation, this lack of concern about the spending, because if we don't have it, if we don't have that concern now, if we can't see it from here, if we're not going to do anything now, we never will, which means we're okay with going off the cliff and seeing what happens.
And the other thing, for example, and Kudlow, since you brought him up, Kudlow made a great point the other day. where he talked about, the bipartisan commission that they want to put together. Well, if you make it bipartisan, you're going to have Democrats come in and we need to seriously raise taxes. Well,
Right,
we've seen
yeah.
this happen before where you
Right.
raise the taxes, but you never do the cutting. That's where I was.
Exactly,
Now,
yeah.
now I want because I want to address that because I didn't. But if I was Trump, I would say, we need to come up with this needs to be done bipartisan, but we can't be raising taxes to do it because if we're, we need to figure out what we're going to do to save the most important programs out there in the future. Mm-hmm. And the bipartisan commission cannot be raising taxes because Americans are taxed enough. And then it's time to talk about. You can talk about taxing the rich, and I think it's a great time to talk about. Look in New York. Look in California. They taxed the rich where the top 1% was paying 50%. Well, you ask the question, everybody needs to pay their fair share. Democrats will never answer the question of what the fair share is for the rich. But is it too much of a fair share when a small number of rich people can move from your state and your tax base collapses?
Right.
Where then everything that they promised to you because the rich were paying it, and then the rich leaves, is now put upon you, and you don't want to pay it. But what else did you expect when you have a tax system that is, that goes after, the wealthy to a much greater degree? Well, this is logically what's going to happen. They're going to move elsewhere.
Yeah.
Look, I said this, and you remember it. Immediately after 2022, when they got the House but not the Senate. Mm-hmm. And it was very simple. I said, this is now for the next 2 years. You have to educate. If you're going to be leaders, you need to educate the American public. To go along and be a populist and go, whatever the American public wants, I'm just going to do, and not be a leader is wrong.
Right.
Because the American public, they put you in charge to look ahead for those problems.
Well, no, that's it. And as a nation, we have to wake the hell up. We've seen it so many times. This is another part of being old and doing this for so long. On a number of things. Afghanistan. We want out, we want out, we want out, we want out. Botched exit, and then demonstrating why you should have a couple of thousand troops in Afghanistan. Yeah, we probably should have left some there, and we're probably going to have to go back. That's what the polls were showing. On national security on the border, for years, well, you're a racist. You don't want people coming here. And over again, we've seen it. Look, it seems like light years, 2016, when Trump was saying build a wall, and the left was saying, how dare you? We're going to tear walls down. We're not building walls. We're breaking walls down. We're making connections with people all over the world. We want them coming here. Oh, wait, what's that bus showing up in my city repeatedly? Who are those people?
Well, that is another thing about, because the reckless spending that goes on, in order to keep an open border. But as Kudlow writes here, because Kudlow wrote about it just the other day, hat tip to former Texas Congressman Jeb Hensarling for his excellent op-ed piece on the subject last week in the Wall Street Journal. The best way to avert a crisis is to reform entitlements. The next best way is growth. The trouble with these so-called bipartisan commissions is that they start raising taxes at the very first meeting, even before the first cup of coffee has been poured. And that's true, but that's where you have to, again, that's where you're a leader and you say, here's what we have to do. We have to have more economic growth, which means we have to stop.
Which is what we've been saying.
But this is where you tie it all together. We want economic growth. In order to get economic growth, we don't have the population to fill it. We don't have women coming into the world. You do exactly what we did. We don't have the baby boomers coming in anymore. From the huge, what do they call it? The not the bubble, not the birth bubble.
The baby boom.
The baby, yeah, the baby. Duh. Mm-hmm. We don't have a baby boom anymore like we did post World War II, At the same time, we had the baby boom. This is where we explained to the American people. We had the baby boom, and we had women coming into the workforce like never before over those next 60, 70 years. And that's what was able to make it so we could have the growth that we have, because you need people in order to have growth.
Yep.
Economic growth. We need to close the border to have that economic growth, which is the other way to help, reduce the deficit and reduce the hopefully the debt someday, is to have economic growth. You don't get that by raising taxes, but you also don't get there if you have an open border. We need to close the border and ensure that legal immigrants who come in have the skills that we need to boost the American economy. And so but you got to explain to people, and I don't know if Trump has the ability. Trump has the ability to do it. I don't know if he wishes to do it.
Yeah, you have to have the will. If he were talking like the way he were talking to what's his name from CNN the day he got kicked out, Jim Acosta. We want people to come here because we're going to need workers as we're expanding this economy. It wasn't a fight between Trump and Acosta. Acosta wanted it to be. And then Acosta was kicked out, and that became the story. But the conversation leading up to that, just moments before that microphone was taken away from Jim Acosta and he was kicked out of the room, that's what he was doing. If you do that repeatedly on the campaign trail, we have to expand the economy, something we have been saying.
And Kudlow writes here, remember, Kudlow was an economic advisor to Trump. He pulled him in, and that's what stopped really the movement towards the protectionist policies of the president and Lighthizer and what's his name, and Navarro is when Kudlow came in. He goes, but better to give Trump a strong Republican Senate and House so that the fiscal committees can do their job rather than rely on left-wing Democrats. And finally, any moves to strengthen Social Security should focus on market-based investment choices. Just like the federal thrift savings plan, Social Security participants should have the options of purchasing approved stock or bond index funds that over the long term will yield far higher returns and create more wealth than the current system.
Right.
Now, he was one of the lead economic advisors to Trump. Trump won't touch talking like that.
Right.
Yeah, you have to.
Oh, yeah. There are answers.
There are answers, but you have to be willing to address it.
You've got to have the will to do it.
But the American public isn't willing to address it yet.
Well, and there's the key. Look, this is an educational process. To change hearts and minds, it always is.
866-98 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Uncompensated detention at docks frustrates drivers of all stripes. If you're an owner-operator, you have at least some control over the matter. Make the subject a standard part of your rate and/or contract negotiations on the front end. You can use your own numbers to calculate an hourly rate to compensate for lost income opportunity, as well as fixed costs, which don't stop when the truck stops. Those two elements of a fair detention rate were deemed appropriate by most of Overdrive's audience almost a decade ago. We've used income, fixed costs, and miles average of our owner-operator business services from ATBS's clients to compute an average $64 an hour detention rate then. And 10 years later, the figure is $83 an hour. Use your own numbers to calculate your rate. A simple conversation with any broker or shipper or your carrier if you're leased about what you're putting in the rate might yield results you don't expect. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
If
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Look, I'm not saying that if Trump and the Republican Party, went down what Larry Kudlow just said they should do, and as we have stated what they should do, because I think if Trump sat there and called for a commission, yeah, you do the commission, but what you do is you win big. You have you win big in November, and you win the House, you win the Senate, and that's where you can start doing things. You can't do anything if you don't win.
Well, the commission has the potential of being the same blah, blah, blah as before, where it's non-binding papers that they write, and then they put it out there, and then those who disagree with it, which is, could be anybody or everybody.
That's why you set the parameters of what you would accept as president from a particular commission.
Well, and
you
what
say
power
it
they would have.
What you say it is because you're trying to tell the American public, I'm doing everything we possibly can to solve this problem that's coming down the pike. But you actually do it by winning and having the numbers in the House.
That's
and
where
Senate.
the work is done.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Trump winning the New Hampshire primary yesterday. Biden winning the write-in vote, but really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Let's go to Jeremiah in Tennessee. Jeremiah, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi.
First thing I want to say is y'all the best radio show out there, period. Y'all was better than Rush Limbaugh.
Well, thank you.
Second, I'd like to say thank y'all for telling the truth about Donald Trump. All the other radio people I listen to seems like they're scared to. But I wanted to call to say that another Biden-Trump rematch Trump has his base. They won't vote for him. Biden's base are not enthusiastic. Really, they do not want to vote for Biden. They're going to vote only against Trump, really. So Nikki Haley is a guaranteed win, and I really don't understand why. I know she's a moderate, but it's a guarantee. Why risk losing the Trump?
Well, nothing
after 2018.
Yes, I've learned in politics, and for some reason your call is very muffled.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremiah.
But we understood what you said. Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed in an election. And Nikki Haley, it's the problem is, what would she do as a Republican president?
Right.
What would her focus be? We've already seen, for example, with things that she has said from the whole thing with inviting Disney to come to South Carolina. I don't believe that Nikki Haley, now foreign policy wise, that is to be seen what she would do. But domestically speaking, she hasn't hit, I believe, she hasn't hit the Republican Party in what they would like to see, I believe, in the intensity and passion of the problems that we have today.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think the problem with Nikki Haley is. And so if you can't win the nomination, it doesn't matter. If you're trying to figure out, well, why won't, if your complaint is, well, people should vote another way.
Yeah.
Well, they don't.
Right.
It doesn't. So that's I think an exercise in futility. For Trump could win the independents. Biden is that bad.
Yeah.
Sure. You had Van Jones yesterday. Biden needs to hole up in the basement again. He shouldn't be out there speaking. We're back to interesting. We're back to that interesting discussion again. Could Trump win by talking a lot, and Biden win by not talking at all?
Or could Trump win by not getting the coverage he got in 2016?
No, you're right. No, you're right.
Which isn't the same as running in the basement, but he doesn't get the same media coverage. And if there's no debates, could we have a political season, a major political season, where the television coverage is just talking heads doing their analysis?
Look, one of the things, and I looked at. Look, if I was Trump yesterday, I would have done. I don't know what's in his head with everything with the court, with all the having to go to court all the time and everything else. There's got to be a lot of bitterness, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, because Trump was screwed over. But it doesn't matter. You got to win. And, what I saw last night wasn't, again, this is coming from a political consultant point of view, was not the tone I want to hear. With Nikki Haley's not going to go anywhere. You could sit there and go, yeah, Nikki Haley, ran a good thing. We all know here's the problems, with her, whatever. And I hope to get your continued support. You're going to win anyway. But the fact is, I don't, when you talk about that all Republicans are united, they're not. All Republicans are not united. But it's your job, if you're the nominee, to unite them, not just say they're united, but unite them. And that's, I think, part of the tone. I've always had a problem with Trump's tone. I think it's hurt him way more than helped him. It may help him with his base, but as the last caller says, doesn't help him with independence. Well, Joe Biden is so bad, it might not matter this time. I don't know. But there is no guarantee in politics.
And Nikki Haley was not the answer.
Right. And Nikki Haley was, she's not, I don't think we have to go any further. There's no reason to get into an intense discussion in it because she's not going to be there.
Right.
Now, would Nikki Haley be better than Biden? Of course. Chris Christie would have been better than Biden. Any Republican would be better than Biden on the list, except maybe John Kasich, but he didn't run this time.
Yeah, right.
So
we haven't heard from him yet.
Yeah, so I can't look. The difference between 2020 and now is, and come November will be Biden 4 years of Biden. Now, how will that affect people? They know we all went through COVID. We all saw what happened. That we all saw the lies, the censoring. From government, the misinformation from government. The American public knows. Democrats know. Democrats know that when Biden comes out and says, we need to stop the disinformation, Democrats and independents know that the biggest purveyor of misinformation is and has been the government like never before after what we saw through COVID.
Well, and, you look at the distrust in government. I think that's going to be another big driver. It's not anywhere close to inflation and immigration, the border. What people are concerned with, though, over and over again, it's, these everyday things that are, being pounded with the cost of everything, the increased cost of everything. The border adds to that because they see, well, wait a minute, that means we're spending money on people who aren't citizens. And you're not spending money on me. And we've seen that before. We saw it from the left. We're still seeing it from the left in cities like Chicago and New York City.
I think, and Trump really hasn't gone here yet, and neither had Nikki Haley, and I think it's important for Republicans to do so. And if you've listened to the show, we've said this. And this is where I think Trump, instead of getting into it's time to insult and now use curse words, he used a few of them last night. Let's explain to the American public. Let me be a teacher. That's what the mentality you go in. We need to educate an ignorant public. And you need to go in there and say, what you have to understand. And this is where you go in and you talk like a tone like this. You have to understand that this is, and I'm doing this completely ad lib. Do I have anything in front of me, Eric? Nothing in front of me whatsoever, right? I've got my phone. I've got the pile of stuff over here of the stories I haven't gotten to.
Computer screen, microphone.
The computer, but look at the computer screen is let me get rid of the computer screen. There's nothing there whatsoever. Okay, just blank computer screen. And if I were Trump, I'd say, I would be leading with this now. I really wouldn't be paying much attention to Nikki Haley because she's not going to be a force. She's not going to do anything. So I'd mention her and say, she's she served me, but we disagree with her on this, and this, and that's why I'm the better candidate. But I think you already start selling the whole, Biden thing. That with the American public, I think what people need to understand is for the first time in American history, it's not that these problems and challenges happen like we have in our daily lives. Things happen in our daily lives, that we have to solve the problem. But it's a whole different case when government creates the problem. And he could go back and say, Ronald Reagan said it. Government is the problem. But not only is government the problem, because government's been the problem in the past because they have the wrong solutions to the problems that we face. The difference is now government, the Biden administration, in a calculated way, creates the problems that you have today. Inflation. It's not that Biden can't solve inflation. It's that he created inflation. And then you go through what happened with it and how he was even warned by the Obama economist. You go through electric vehicles and the cost of vehicles in general. All of that comes from, number one, inflation. Number two, producing a product that the American public doesn't want, that for the first time in the history of man, we are producing products because the government says to the private sector, you've got to produce this particular vehicle, which is not as efficient and productive and is not what the American public wants. And then they subsidize it with your taxpayer dollars, and you still can't afford to buy one. And so in order for these automobile companies to make a profit, they've got to skyrocket the cost of gasoline vehicles too. So it doesn't matter whether you're buying an EV or you're buying a gasoline vehicle, your cost of buying a vehicle is greater because the government made the price greater. So we can go back and talk about Ronald Reagan when he said government is the problem. And a lot of that was, okay, we've got these problems and government can't solve it. And when they try to solve it, they make the problem worse. No. The first time in American history, this administration, all the major problems we have, and you lay it all out, is in a premeditated and calculated way. It's being done. The damage to the country is being created by the Democrats and the president. And that's what you do when you pound it over and over and over and over again. And for the life of me, I don't know why the Republicans haven't been doing that on a consistent basis. That's frustrating.
That should have started last year, if at the latest.
I would have started that after the election in 22.
Right, and you see things that add to it every day. They're banning natural gas use. Well, not only are you talking to people that heat their home with natural gas, you're talking to business owners. You're talking to people who are having to make huge decisions on investments because of how they're going to run their business, the restaurant industry. All of this, all these connections you can make every single day. It's an educational process to change hearts and minds, to motivate people. It's the same thing. You have to get out there and you have to demonstrate. We know that you want to heat your home with plentiful natural gas.
Yep.
We know, and cheap natural gas. And we're the best at it. We're the best nation on the planet at producing it and delivering it, and there's no reason to ban it.
Yeah, and you go through about American jobs there. Why are we begging other dictators? You do it. Look, we had one caller tonight, and I haven't heard it in a while, but we heard a lot in 2016 and 2020. Trump is a businessman. Well, then talk like one.
Sell it.
Talk like a business person. Sell it. Don't talk like a schoolyard boy.
Yeah.
And he has the ability to do it, but for some reason, he won't.
Well, the key to the art of the deal is to close it.
Yeah, you've got it right there. He wrote the book on it.
Yep. Close it. Close the deal.
Yeah. Follow your own advice.
Yep.
Be a businessman.
Because you can talk that way, especially now, and especially him. You can talk that way to people, and they get it.
Yeah, of course they do. 866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here this morning. More look at the polling out there. I'm actually looking. I haven't even looked at anything. We've discussed everything and had some great conversations over the last couple of hours, and I've been able to relieve my stress a little bit.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Who did you punch in the mouth? Oh, you mean on the air?
On the air, yeah.
Oh, okay.
We'll get to this here. There's a headline. I'd stay hidden. CNN's Van Jones urges Biden to repeat 2020 basement campaign.
No, I would give the campaign the same advice. Don't let him out in public. We already know they're doing that, by the way. They're doing that as president. Forget about the campaigning. They don't want him going anywhere. They don't want him going anywhere.
And the story that made it lost yesterday that I thought was huge. Hunter Biden's lawyer testifies that first Trump impeachment created an emergency for Hunter to file unpaid taxes.
Right.
I don't think you and I have gone through this and said, did the impeachment happen because the Biden administration knew they were actually getting too close?
Too close to the fire.
truth.
Yeah.
Yep. We'll get to that and more. A whole bunch more coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You know, one of the things that I thought was a very smart move by Trump yesterday was having Tom Homan there, former acting director of ICE, who testified. We played a bunch of his audio earlier this week and then last week, too, his testimony before the House on the impeachment hearings for Mayorkas. And I started thinking to myself, it was funny because last week I went, wonder if the Republicans will use him more. Because one of the most effective things he said last week was, I work for 6 presidents. And the one, and everyone gave me the ability to, he said, even Obama gave him the ability to try to close the border more. And he said, but Trump was the one that really did it. I think with immigration now being the number one issue for Americans, I was like, I wonder if Republicans are going to use him more. Have him up. Well, Trump had him there and had him say a few words last night in his victory speech in New Hampshire. And I just think he's very effective because he comes across as somebody, when he says, I've been there since 84. I've worked for 6 presidents. Homan comes across, we talk about tone and style. He's got it.
Yeah.
He comes across as somebody who can answer any question with specifics.
Yeah.
Like when, the Democrats were trying to, claim that, it's uncaring, the child separation policy. Mm-hmm. And he just went right into, you want uncaring? Migrants being raped at the border, migrants being killed by the cartels, 100,000 children disappearing into the United States. Who the hell knows where they are? How is that caring? That's the kind of bluntness he comes across as somebody who is, Homan is, to me, great because he doesn't come across as a politician at all. He comes across as somebody, I've been there. I got the experience.
Yeah.
I've done this now since 1984. I've worked under 6 presidents. I've seen it all. And nothing is like this calculated, premeditated behavior of this administration to destroy the border and cause chaos all throughout America. Well, we noticed last week that after a couple of people asked him some questions, Democrats stopped asking him any questions. They would just filibuster. And if they did dare try to ask him a question, then they backed off. But here he was with a few remarks last night after the Trump victory in New Hampshire. And he was there, and Trump said, come on up. Mm-hmm. So here he is. Yeah.
Look, I worked for 6 presidents down around Reagan, and every president I ever worked for did something to secure the border. But no one did more than President Trump. The most secure border in my lifetime.
And then he talked more, but I mean, they put him up there, and that's a smart political move. That's the number one thing. You get the guy you get the person who's most effective in selling the credibility of what Republicans want on the border. So I give Trump credit for that, for bringing him on stage too. That was great.
It's a massive endorsement by somebody who knows all you need to know about what's going on at the border. And beyond that, it's also, I think, going to be required by Trump, certainly going to be useful. I don't know required, but certainly useful for him to have surrogates out there, key surrogates that are going to be out there talking. Trump will benefit from that, no doubt. Biden will have to rely on that. Only his surrogates are going to be capable of talking to the media. I don't know how you make this happen. As you suggested yesterday with Biden, maybe only pre-recorded things. But otherwise, it's going to have to be surrogates out there. And it's going to have to be, they're going to have to be everywhere.
But there isn't a surrogate that can sell Biden.
No, they're going to sell not Trump.
Yeah.
It's the only thing they have.
That's why.
Well, look at what Michelle Obama was doing. Look at what Whoopi was doing. Oh, no, I fear for our nation. Uh-huh. Yeah, here it goes.
I'm getting the feeling that doesn't work anymore.
I don't think it does. Huh? These the latest going, oh, I'm really scared. Now, if you had, I don't know, a man on the street, like with reporters in all the major cities where everyday people were saying that, maybe that would be slightly more effective. But you don't have that for a reason. It's not working. The everyday person is not out there saying that about Trump. Both of these candidates, the current president and the former president, are known quantities.
Well, I think what's really interesting is that in 2016 and even in 2020, the media would say outrageous things about Trump, and you would then, I think that filtered, that trickled down, to Democratic voters who would promote it. Now when they've gone to the point of it's Hitler. What's beyond Hitler now?
Well, there's the question. I don't even know. What do you call him when he's come back, 4 years later?
Oh,
is he still Hitler?
I know that, who was the one who said it, that Trump's going to be, that LGBTQ people are going to be disappearing off the streets.
Whoopi.
Was it Whoopi who did that?
Yeah.
Does that hold any water with anybody? No, it doesn't hold any water with anybody. And that's the thing. I'm getting the feeling that everything that the Biden supporters are doing is basically, I don't want to use that word. I don't want to use that phrase because of the sexual connotation of it. But I'll just say people in a circle. where you're talking to one another. It's almost as if the media is talking to the media. The Democrat politicians are talking to the Democrat politicians, but nothing is filtering down to the people in the support of Biden.
Right.
In fact, I want to play this here because this is Representative Dean Phillips yesterday, and the Democrat from Minnesota, who's running for president against Biden and came in second place in New Hampshire. A couple of the words that he said, because it's always interesting to hear, the people that are Democrats that disagree with Biden running for president. Here we go.
Haley, I want to say, well, congratulations to President Biden, who absolutely won tonight. But by no means in a way that a strong incumbent president should, but I respect him. He won. I want to congratulate former President Trump for winning tonight as well. But Nikki Haley just said she's been here working for a year. Well, we've been at this for 10 weeks, my friends, and we just got... We decided 2 weeks before the October 27 deadline to come up to Concord, bring a $1,000 check. I was 35 years old or older, and I was born in the U.S., so we became a presidential candidate. And we just earned 20% tonight, and no one knew who we were 10 weeks ago. Nobody. Thank you, everybody. So I gotta say, man, if we had 20 weeks, watch the heck out. So, now, I'm not gonna tell you what I'm gonna do next until the end of my little remarks here, but I also want to send some love to all of you. All of you. I gotta tell you, the last 90 days of my life have been reinvigorating, re-inspiring, energizing, and awesome. This state, you Granite Staters, practice democracy like no other state in this entire country. And the fact that the party I represent would have the audacity to take that from you and would have the audacity to say that this was meaningless? No. Your votes tonight were the most meaningful votes you've ever cast in your life, and I'll make that promise to you, because I'm going to use them going forward. And no party in this country, Democratic, Republican, or otherwise, no party should ever receive a letter from one of our 50 states' attorney generals, a cease and desist for the unlawful suppression of voters. They didn't suppress you, thank goodness, but they sure did a lot of people.
It's interesting. I got to find the comment that he had yesterday. I don't know if it was in those remarks where he called the Democratic Party delusional.
Yeah.
When Democrats, I got to find that audio. I saw the headline. I got to find the audio of it. When Democrats use Red Eye Radio's arguments or words to describe the Democratic Party.
Their own party.
Now, the one problem is when he congratulated Donald Trump and there were some cheers in his primary election headquarters.
Yeah, right.
Now, I don't know if the cheers were sarcastic because they believe that Trump will lose to. I don't know. I didn't figure it out, but to me it sounded like they were actually Trump supporters.
It sounded like pro-Trump.
I know, it really did. But I got to see the context in where he called them delusional, because that to me is really interesting.
Yeah.
But
is
he running just to show the Democratic Party that is his attempt to basically show the Democratic Party that they have to change, or that the Biden campaign has to change in some way, because he's not going to succeed in getting them to change anything?
No, I don't know that anybody is. The collective rank and file Democrat, maybe one day, might get them to change, but it's not going to happen this election cycle. You're not going to get the Biden campaign. You're not going to tell Joe Biden what to do, Jack. It's set in stone.
Okay, he was on CNN. This was over the. This was on CNN this morning, where he said my party is completely delusional right now.
Okay,
I knew I'd sign up.
Yeah.
I'll find that audio cut for you.
Yeah.
I just found the headline. So.
Well, I mean, that's true.
Oh, yeah.
I don't, you know, I don't know how big that movement is, but it would be great to see, if you saw a number of Democrats peeling off this year saying, sorry, can't do it. I don't know that you'll see that between now and November, and it's because Trump is the opposition.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, we will get to that. I found the Dean Phillips audio. Dean Phillips, who came in second in the Democrat primary,
Right.
to the write-in for Biden, got 20%. He was polling at 10%.
Yeah.
And and you heard his message was, geez, I've only been in since October. Nobody knows who I am, and I got 20% of the vote.
Yeah.
It shows you how, disenfranchised many Democrats are. But we'll play the audio coming up. But he did talk about, he walked across the street to a Trump rally. Because really nobody recognizes him when you think about it. You would walk on the street. He said he talked to like 50 Trump supporters. He said, all fantastic people, saying the only one that's listening to us is Trump. Nobody else out there is listening to us. And I thought that was fascinating because, as you know, the media now going after, Trump supporters. And you and I said it yesterday, and I've said this all along, that because we had a caller saying that, you guys are the only ones that will criticize Trump. I criticize, we have nothing against people individually. Nothing is personal to us. We don't practice political idolatry, but we don't practice political hatred. We may be passionate because other people can do that, and that's fine. We want to hit them where they are on the issues because policy and the issues is what really matters, what you're going to do, what you're going to do there. But there isn't and I said it yesterday again, there isn't one Trump supporter that doesn't know Trump's weaknesses that I've talked to. You don't have we talk about the never Trumpers. You don't have a lot of always Trumpers that are saying he's never wrong and he's right on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Trump voters know his weaknesses. They know it. And they're concerned about it because they'd like him to win because they believe he's the better choice than anybody out there. But they're not stupid. Trump loyalists aren't stupid at all.
No, they're not.
And they're not fascist, and they're not any of that. That's just the liberal media that has nowhere else to go.
Well, and this is it. And expect them to ramp up the, whoopee type behavior. The fear mongering. And I'm with you. I don't think that's working at all anymore. Because remember where it started in 2016. Ooh, he talks like a Hitler. He talks like a... And then you go through the problem, the reason, I think, if it's not resonating, is because people look back and say, well, what was my life like during his presidency? What's the reality of him versus Biden? Because even Biden as president was an idea in the abstract until he was elected. And you realize, oh, man, we missed the mark with this one. So we're living in the reality, and however they try and position Trump is not going to win. Because the contrast between the Trump years and the Biden years is very clear. And this is where, the left is not going to learn. The fear-mongering is not going to work. It's only going to work with those who it was always going to work with. The people who were never, ever going to consider Trump. We're talking about the independents. And there is a big question as to where they'll go. But the difference between the average American, if you look at it, and you're looking at the difference between the Trump years leading up to COVID and the Biden years so far, is vastly different. And you have it in front of you. Abstract versus reality. And that's it. Biden is no longer in the abstract. What would he do as president? We already know. And we know with Trump.
And by the way, Dean Phillips is as liberal as you can get.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's just, to sit there and say that, to sit there and say the Democratic Party is delusional that Biden can win and Biden just isn't doing things right. Just from his own website, what would Dean Phillips do? Build millions of new houses and apartments people can afford. Oh, so government should get back involved in the mortgage business again.
Or more government housing?
Yes, exactly. I didn't even think about that. That's an idea that has been so discounted, maybe he wants to bring it back.
Right.
Banning drug companies from charging Americans more than they charge in other countries. Providing affordable health care through Medicare for all. While preserving choice.
Some Medicare for some.
Stopping the big corporations from gouging consumers of food and fuel.
Okay.
Providing tuition-free college and vocational training and zero-interest student loans for everybody. Restoring the expanded child tax credit. Creating an affordable child care system. Raising the pay to for a living wage for hardworking Americans in every zip code.
Right.
It's a typical liberal government pays and takes care for everything when we cannot go down that road anymore.
Right.
More listeners not now than now, depending on when now is. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So, I thought it was important to let people know, Dean Phillips is talking about the delusion of the Democratic Party. It's really on the electability of him, of Biden. And it's not on the actual issues because he's as liberal as you can get. I just read through his website, everything that he's for, which is a typical liberal. Government will take care of your housing, your food, your medicine, everything. If you need it, federal government can take care of it. And he's looking for somebody, he's young, and he believes he can sell that to the Democratic Party and, give them this injection of adrenaline enthusiasm to let's get back to where we were. Let's be able to sell the fact that we need to take care of everybody when we can't afford to do it.
Right.
By the way, that's delusional, especially with the fiscal.
Especially right now.
Right. So I just wanted to say that as he's calling the Democratic Party delusional for believing Trump can win, he is also attempting to sell a delusional argument back to the Democratic Party. But let's hear him. This is an interview that he did on CNN 2 days ago.
The Democrats that and who perhaps once loved you back in Washington are not very happy with what you've been doing here, partly because you've been very aggressive in criticizing the president. My question here, you're sitting at 10% in the polls. Do you have any regrets about how this has gone?
My only regret is that my party just doesn't want to wake up from this delusion. And by the way, I think I'm still loved. It's like a family. We have differences of opinion. I have a conviction that Joe Biden's going to lose. And if anybody looks at the data really objectively, he's going to. And someone had to do it. And I'm saddened that there's this culture of cowardice, silence, and people sitting in line waiting for their turn at a time where we need to meet the moment. So no, I'm not surprised. It hasn't been nearly as horrifying because the fact is the pain I'm feeling by my party isn't close to what people are feeling all around this country.
With all due respect, Chris Sununu, we played him earlier in the show, basically saying that Trump is going to lose, and that's why they shouldn't nominate Trump. They should nominate Nikki Haley. That's kind of the opposite of what you're saying.
Well, I mean, I think it'd take a really unusual look at these numbers. And look, the governor's not a bad guy. He knows Trump's going to win. He's trying his best to prevent that. I respect that. But the writing's on the wall. If Nikki Haley's in this race a few weeks from now, I would be really surprised. And that's the truth. And the fact is we have a duopoly, a two-party system that is literally working against voters. And voters who don't want to show up and vote in primaries and then get frustrated by the choices we have in November, that's part of the problem. We have a crisis of participation. And I got to tell you guys, I went to a Donald Trump rally a couple nights ago. Never been to one. I had an event across the street. I saw the line of people waiting in the cold for hours. And I thought, what the heck? You know, I'm going to be a leader who actually invites people, doesn't condemn them. Met probably 50 Trump people waiting in line. Every single one of them, thoughtful, hospitable, friendly, all of them so frustrated that they feel nobody's listening to them but Donald Trump. A diverse crowd, people who had never been to a Trump event before. My party is completely delusional right now. And somebody had to wake us up. And if that's my job, so be it.
And again, I mean, when you look and you go, oh, the guy looks and sounds great. That's what the Democratic Party is looking for, to sell a delusional platform.
Yeah.
And that's what he represents. I can sell the platform better than Trump. He doesn't say he's going to change anything.
Yeah, or better than Biden.
What did it say? Better than Biden. Better than Biden, yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Thank you.
And he knows that that's what his party wants.
Right.
Just get us somebody who can... Look, we go back to the night McAuliffe lost. We need radicals who can get the message across. We need people on the far left who can get the message across. Biden can't do it. That's their concern with Biden. I think there are a lot of people that are in the middle, independents, who are very concerned with the radical behavior of the left. But we're talking about the party, the rank and file Democrat, who's likely always going to vote Democrat. They want someone who can sell the message, and they want these delusional messages and promises to keep going.
Did you mention Terry McAuliffe? What did you say?
When McAuliffe lost?
Oh, wait a minute. Let's go to this audio cut here from you just reminded me. I have this audio cut from Biden from yesterday in Virginia.
Yeah.
Hello, Virginia. And the real governor, Terry McAuliffe.
The real governor. Yeah.
Election
denier. By the way, was he actually in Virginia, to be clear?
or was it AI?
Or was he in New Hampshire? And he just said, hello, Virginia. You have to ask these questions. But, you know, the real governor. Yeah, no, he's not. And, you know, the future of the party is going to be exactly, the Democratic Party is going to be exactly that. It's going to be, you know, the others who believe that Newsom's not going to change. You know, the future of their party is going to be selling the radical ideas over and over and over again. They just need somebody to sell it better. Stupid American voter on the left is not smart enough to understand that this is how it works. They believe you're stupid. They believe this is what they can promise over and over and over again. And we're at the end of that. They can't deliver on those promises. Medicare for all. You can't do some Medicare for some.
Yeah.
Dean Phillips might be the only Democrat this election cycle who's even brought that up. And it's on his website, to be clear.
Oh, yeah. Everything I read was, I didn't take it off of any place but his website.
Right.
His website. And so he's not trying to hide that he's as liberal as you could possibly be and trying. And I'll say it again because I think it's really important. As he is saying that the Democratic Party is delusional to believe that Joe Biden can win.
Right.
he's attempting to sell right now in this day and age, where we are with the debt, with inflation caused by debt, with the interest on the debt now, $1 trillion a year, and he's attempting to say, oh, well, the federal government needs to finance affordable housing for all, raise the minimum wage across the country, to have the standard minimum wage, a living wage. He didn't say what it was on the website. Could be 20, could be 30.
Right.
Because they've long gone past, $15 an hour, Medicare for all, child tax credit for all. It's like he wants to spend trillions and trillions of more dollars. Talk about delusional. He may be calling the Democrats delusional for believing Biden can win, but what he is bringing up right now is delusional because it can't be done. And I think he was trying to sell maybe I'm taking this too far, but he was saying nobody's paying attention to these people, and so their only resort is Trump. But here I am with all the answers of government taking care of everybody's problems.
Right. Yeah. Well, the fact of the matter is
that's delusional.
It is delusional. I'm waiting for him to introduce Keynesian economics. That's how we'll pay for it, because with every dollar you spend, you get $1.50 in return.
Oh,
or are they up to $2 now?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Nobody's made that argument in a couple of years.
They haven't. Haven't even heard Krugman make that argument. And remember, Larry Lawrence, the Obama advisor. I'm blanking on his last name, who said don't pass the spending bill. At one time was promoting Keynesian economics. And it is the whole delusional thing of we can do it all. In order for them to do that, they're going to have to spend the equivalent of the Green New Deal and massive regulation. Think about that. Man, I just want to hear him talk about affordable housing for everyone. Oh, please tell me more about how you're going to go back to doing subprime lending. I don't know. And then subsidizing the payments every month. Because that's what it would require.
Well, let's understand this. Dean Phillips, in order to sell this, also has to be maybe not delusional and believe that he can sell the Democrats anything as long as it's giving you something for free.
Yeah, right.
But it's a delusional thought because those days are gone, friend.
It's over.
Those days are gone.
It's over. We're sitting around, we're all standing around, Jimmy Stewart in the bank, and it's over. The money's gone. What'd you do with the money? We spent it.
No, Mr. Potter stole it from Uncle Billy.
Same thing.
Just like Social Security.
Exactly.
Okay, I got it. I thought that was.
Yeah. I put some IOUs in the box.
Oh, my gosh.
Lawrence Summers is who I was thinking of earlier. But that is the delusional math that they have done for years. This is all and we've been watching it. Conservatives have been watching this soup show for a long time, and we know where it leads. We know. We didn't buy the ticket to get on that train because we know where it goes. And we're not going there. Hell or high water, cuts are coming.
Yeah.
It's how we're going to cut.
Right.
And what is going to be cut.
And the reason, as what's his name? You were talking about yesterday, was talking about it. Trey Gowdy was saying you can't sell it is because the American public
They don't want to hear it.
They don't want to hear it.
Don't want to hear austerity.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, if you're underwater and you're wondering, again, every single day, how do I get to next payday? How do I get to next payday? Because the cost of everything, yeah. You're probably saying to yourself, I don't want to hear it right now. I don't want to hear it right now. And that's the spiral, the death spiral we're in. Conservatives are that computer on board in that cockpit screaming, pull up, pull up. And we refuse to do it.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. The reason Nikki Haley's in trouble, Nikki Haley relied heavily on the support of independents and Democrats in the New Hampshire primary of Haley voters in New Hampshire. CNN reported 7 in 10 said they were registered as undeclared prior to Tuesday.
Yeah, okay.
CNN relied on an exit poll to make its statement. New Hampshire's has very loose requirements, allow voters to cross over, while future Republican caucuses and primaries will consist overwhelmingly of registered Republicans. So that's why we can safely say it's over. And she's not in the Nevada one. And then South Carolina comes up the end of middle to end of February, and she's down 30 points in that, South Carolina?
Yeah, she is down. The Trump is at 62.2 right now, and she's at 25. She has not hit 30 in South Carolina yet. And
that's a problem.
That's a problem. Because for those that don't know, she vowed tonight to stay in it.
Right.
And she brought up South Carolina. And I thought, okay, let's take a look at South Carolina and where it is. Not even close. She had a much better chance going into New Hampshire of winning New Hampshire, and that wasn't close. I mean, she performed okay, but landslide in terms of the actual results. And she's not going to win South Carolina.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, some other stories out there. California experienced the largest decline in job growth in the United States when comparing job creation in all states before and after the COVID pandemic, a new report finds. An analysis by the Orange County Register columnist Jonathan Lancer found that California's job creation from 2019 to 2023, a period that includes the last pre-pandemic year, as well as the COVID-induced shutdowns and the economy's recovery, was 54% lower than it was in the period 2015 to 2019. The report used federal and state employment data to look at job creation across the state of California and in some of the major metropolitan areas. Los Angeles County saw one of the largest hiring slowdowns in the report. It found that California gained 640,000 jobs between 2019 and 2023 period, and recovered all the jobs lost due to the pandemic-related restrictions imposed by the state and local governments, while adding more jobs on top of those regained. However, the figure is about 743,000 jobs less than the 1.3 million workers the state added to the pre-pandemic 2015 to 2019 period, which caused California to fall from being the nation's leader in job creation during the earlier period to ranking third in the latter four-year window. Lasner's analysis found that employment growth in 25 of 29 California job markets he tracked, hiring in Los Angeles County slowed by 71% compared to pre-pandemic period, while San Francisco declined 81%. Oakland, Berkeley area, 88%.
Wow.
There you go. So nationally, the job creation slowdown was about 40% from that period. Just 10 states managed to accelerate the pace of hiring in their economies in the 2019 to 2023 period. Texas led the way by adding 191,000 more jobs in the 2019-2023 period than in 2015-2019. By the way, that's huge compared when you think about what you went through.
Right.
Because they actually added, it didn't go down. It didn't go down the average of 40% around the nation. It went up.
Right.
Followed by Montana with 11,200 and North Dakota with 10,300. They were followed by 7 other states, including South Dakota, Arkansas, Wyoming, Kentucky, Alaska, Idaho, and Kansas that saw smaller net improvements in the pace of job creation. I really am, too bad that I'm old and I won't be around to see all this, but I would like, the futurists talk about 2100.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, most of us won't be around if it's 75 years from now. I may be gone
True
sooner.
story. If there are any infants listening.
If you're under 18.
Yeah.
But I just, when you look and they talk about what's going to happen, the shift, and I think really greater than before, because we have been in a period when you look at, if you look, you go, 1950 on, when we had the baby boom, women coming into the workforce, really unprecedented growth that we saw in that period over the last, roughly 73 years.
Yeah. Right.
But we've also had the opportunity, in that particular period, because the economies have grown, the state budgets have grown massively. Mm-hmm. And there are states that have done it more right than other states. Yeah. And so when you look at the futurists talking about the fact that Texas is going to be over 100 million people in 75 years, it's like, whoa. I mean, you're like, wow, the growth is just unbelievable. And that Dallas-Fort Worth will be 35 million people. And
I'm actually glad I won't be around that.
Honey, I'm going to go across town.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'll be back in 3 days.
Right. Yeah. No.
I can't even imagine it, because when and I lived in Portland, Oregon before I came here, and then before that I was in Buffalo, and then before that Chicago, before that Rockford, Illinois, before that Buffalo. Let me see. Before that, Marshall, Texas. Before that, Fort Walton Beach, Florida. So, before that, Buffalo. Before that, Geneva, New York. And Sodas Point, New York. So I've lived in small places and big places. And so you get an idea in your head. You just know where the boundaries are. And Portland roughly was about 2 million people when I was there. And when I came here to Texas 23 years ago, almost 24, we were at a little over 5 million metro.
Yeah.
And now
somewhere around there.
Now it's like between 7.5 and 8 million.
Right.
Think about that. And
they say growing at a rate of what, roughly 100,000 per year? The metro area? I don't know how much of Texas they're scooping into the metro area anymore. By the way, it used to only go so far, and now you go up to there's towns an hour away, an hour north of here, and they seem to get lumped in with some of the stats that people are putting out there.
I think the metro area is getting bigger because it's expanding out so far.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Though, too, I mean, it's not just that they're adding because the population is moving out.
That's my point. They're scooping in more and more of those small towns that were not part of it before, saying, okay, now that's part of it. And by the way, they have a point. Some of those towns, you used to drive and not see anything between the DFW Metroplex and those towns, and now it doesn't even look like you've left the city.
The one thing that blows me away is when I first got here in 2000, up to about really when I started doing this show. When you worked at WBAP, I mean, local, you were doing. I mean, I was doing. I don't know, during the busy season, probably 3 events a week. Mm-hmm. And I mean speeches, live broadcasts, but a lot of speeches and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I was always going up 121 towards Plano constantly. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was always, or take the Dallas North Tollway when it ended, right at Plano, right. Yeah. And there was nothing there.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about, I was going up there to like 2004, 2005. I didn't end up going back there till it was a few years ago when I played in, because then I started doing this show, and it's just your whole schedule changes, and just you can't do as many things during the day because you're sleeping. Mm-hmm. So can't do things at night anymore. You can't. But I was always up in that area. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't go up for like 10 years. Mm-hmm. And then I was probably 2016, 2017 when I started playing in Independent Bob's golf tournament up there.
Yeah.
And I remember driving the first time through going, where the hell am I?
Yeah.
Where did this city come from?
Right.
I mean, Plano became a medium market city with, with tall buildings. And it was like, where did this come from? And then, the Dallas Cowboys, are up there now and everything else. And I mean, that place is like, it's another city.
Yeah. Frisco and,
Frisco.
All that stuff.
Frisco, Plano. Yeah, exactly.
The tollway now goes to Branson, Missouri, which is odd.
That's really good. I want to go to Branson and get a direct shot up there. Huh?
Yeah, right.
But it's told. No, we're kidding it.
Yeah.
And so you see the growth that we have here, and it's a joke. And I'll never forget when my great old friend Lars Larson, who works at our great affiliate KXL in Portland, and then does his regional national show. He works 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget when he came here and he sent me an email. He sent me an email, or he posted it somewhere, and he just said, "Wow," he said, "Dallas does it right because they're building new roads all over the place."
Oh, it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
And
they're going through my living room right now, and right through the middle of it.
And in Portland, over the years, I mean, the thing that always blew me away is the fact that the population kept growing. But the liberal government said, we're not going to build any new roads.
Yeah.
We're going to force you onto public transportation.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. You'd be going through Portland on Saturday afternoon. There's traffic jams because they wouldn't build new highways. And so Lars was always sensitive, so he came here and he just goes, my God, now that's how to do it. They're building highways everywhere, and it's the joke that construction is always going on here.
Well, that's why, the liberals in Austin didn't want to do that with their roads and highways either. And then so the rest of Texas said, okay, we'll build around you. We'll do a loop around you, and we'll make it 85 miles an hour.
Oh, and I've been on that.
Yeah. Oh, I've been on
that road
a number of times.
And I was with my brother.
Yeah.
And I said, we're going to hit. He goes, it's 85.
And everyone's doing 90 at least.
And my vehicle was a month old.
Right.
And it was. Now, the new vehicles, my old vehicle by the way, I was 5 miles in and it started. I don't know if because I didn't start it for because we had such bad weather, I didn't start it. Was hesitating a little bit. The engine light went on and off, but it looked fine. I go, no, I'm bringing it back to the house.
Oh, yeah.
And so I got the old vehicle, my new vehicle, but my old vehicle, which is a 2003, excuse me. God, 21 years old, closing in on 250,000 miles on it. That thing does not do well at 80. It didn't when I first got it. It's like nobody thought you're going to be driving 80. The new suspensions on the new vehicles, I'm going 83, 84. You don't feel it. It's wonderful.
Right, yeah.
I mean, so they've really improved technology and suspension and everything over the last.
Yeah, in my truck, I have to be careful because I can get up. I look down and go, whoa.
It doesn't feel like you're going there.
No.
And the weird thing is, you do something like that, then I go back to New York where a lot of the speed limits are still 55 miles an hour. You're going 55 miles an hour. It feels like you're going 5.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like very school zone.
I'm never going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm not. So, the
expansion of these metro areas, is because this is what is going to continue. People naturally have to go where the jobs are, where life is easier. I'm seeing more and more people, anecdotally, but people relocating to Texas saying, I should have done this years ago. And I'm so happy to not be paying taxes. And one person who lived in New York City for the longest time and said, the taxes alone were killing me. And those are because you're paying a city income tax, state income tax, and then, of course, federal.
Well, I tell you that the guy I follow, and I love watching it because I love paying attention to people that do something that's completely different from me and live a completely different lifestyle. I'm fascinated by it to the point where people will say, are you thinking of doing that? I go, no. I just am interested in what other people are doing. I've no intention of doing it. I'm amazed that they do it. But I follow the guy, Cash Jordan, and he's, I guess, he's in real estate, apartments, all that, but he does videos every day on all these different apartments in New York City, and it's fascinating. He never got political at all or talked about it. And seems like every couple of weeks, he's doing videos of how bad it's getting in New York City.
Yeah.
And how bad it's going to be for the average person who wants to live there. One of the things is we talked about how, you and I've talked about before, how younger people, there's fewer of them that actually get a driver's license because they expected, well, we're going to live in the city. We'll live in the city. We'll take the bus everywhere. We'll do that. Well, now the cities, after COVID, how does that change all of that? And when you look at, you have states that do not wish to be economically competitive with other states. That really hasn't happened in the United States before to this degree. And so you look at it when you see what Texas is going to be population-wise and Florida, and, it was every single study I've seen shows everybody is moving south.
Yeah.
And actually one said, well, one of the reasons they're moving south is climate change. Oh, so people want the warmer temperatures, huh? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
But weather, when you see, for example, the pick and choosing, you'll have the media go, well, there are some people that don't like it when they get to Texas because it's too hot. Well, of course.
Yeah.
There is no perfect situation. Oh, yeah, California, earthquakes.
Right.
Wildfires, landslides. Doesn't matter where you go. Buffalo, snow.
Well,
Texas, heat, fire
always,
ants.
Yeah, it always comes down to cost of living, jobs. Unless you're retired, those are going to be your drivers right there. Where can I raise my family? You heard another liberal talking about it the other day. I don't own a gun, but I love living in a state where they practice their Second Amendment rights. For some reason, I feel safer. And I may have to look into it myself. And I thought, okay, you're changing hearts and minds.
There was a comedian who said that recently.
There was. Yeah, actually, a couple of them have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. When driving, you need to manage the space around your vehicle so that there's enough space to allow you to adjust when traffic conditions change. The space ahead of your vehicle is the most important and one of the easiest to monitor and adjust as needed. One rule of thumb is to allow at least 1 second for each 10 feet of vehicle length at speeds below 40 miles per hour. At greater speeds, add an additional second. It's impossible to keep other drivers from tailgating you, but there are some things you can do to make it safer, such as increasing your following distance, avoiding quick lane changes, and slowing down. There are also several things you should do to ensure that there is plenty of space between the side of your vehicle and other vehicles. Don't hug the center line, avoid hugging the right side of the road, and avoid traveling alongside other vehicles in strong winds, especially crosswinds. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, Americans don't believe the middle class can afford homes because they can't. Well, more Americans can't.
Right.
Let's put it that way. And the advice now is coming in from Democrats, loyal Democrats. Biden should stay hidden to win the election.
Well, I mean,
he said something yesterday, and I got to go find it. You couldn't understand anything. And the crowd's cheering. It's like, what are they cheering about? Are they cheering just to drown out that they don't understand what he's saying?
Well, if you're going to do a stop, you're going to have, well, of course, it's going to be populated. Every campaign stop is nothing but friendlies, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just cheer anytime he pauses. You're just going to have to do that, right?
Yeah.
Even if you have no idea what he said. Cheer, everybody. Have an applause sign, a cheer sign. I don't know how you do it, but everybody has to do it.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Let me play a couple of audio cuts here. Eric, this is the first one, and thank you for finding it and sending it to me.
Yeah.
Eric found it because I'd seen it yesterday where it's like, what did he say and what are they cheering over?
Right.
This is Joe Biden yesterday in Virginia.
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
What?
I think he said, don't mess with the men and women in America unless you want the benefit.
Get the benefit.
Didn't make sense
benefit?
at all. Yeah, it's like,
what the? Do you want to play it again?
I'm sorry.
I kind of want to hear it again.
I just delete. All right, let me go. Let me go back to it here.
All right.
I moved on because I was getting ready to play getting ready to play the next my next window. I'll find. I'll get it for you here. Hang on. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, because it's what the benefit. The what? Unless you want the benefit.
Wait, I'm sorry. When you did it,
yeah,
you sounded like Milton in Office Space when you were.
I think we.
That's what I.
What's the benefit of what?
Here he is. Here he is. Okay.
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
Unless you want to get a benefit?
I got nothing.
And I didn't pick up the first couple of seconds either.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what he said. And it's like they're just cheering when he pauses. They
That's
have no
it.
idea what he's saying.
I think what you do is you have the cheer leaders.
That's why they're called cheerleaders. They lead the cheers.
All right, here, we need you over in this corner. Okay, you two are going to be on stage behind him. And then anytime he pauses, and everybody else will follow.
Okay, one more time.
Let's
All right.
Here
we go. One more time. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
The benefit of
what?
Winning?
I don't know. They're all cheering. It's like,
I just want to get the benefit. Wow. What?
And look, it is his family that says nothing is wrong with him and his campaign. He's absolutely the most energetic, clear-headed person out there.
Oh, yeah.
They're the ones who are denying that anything is right. Clearly, he has cognitive problems.
Well,
I'm not laughing at his cognitive problems. I'm actually laughing at the fact that the Democrats are cheering. That they know that he has extreme problems and can't even finish a sentence. And
well, listen.
By the way, did you see how the media went after Trump the other day for the mixing up Nikki Haley and.
Yeah, all of a sudden, cognitive issues are a concern.
Right, there's huge cognitive issues now with Trump, and we're like, stop it, there was one thing.
One thing, and it's the only thing they have. And by the way, on the whole Biden thing, even recently, his vice president, Kamala Harris, talked about how smart he is. And she knows. She met him back in 2020 one time.
Well, she's right. He is a lot smarter than she is.
Well, that's by comparison.
But I want to play this audio cut from Van Jones, and they were having the discussion and everything on what are they going to do?
Right.
And they start out with Scott Jennings, who is the token Republican on there.
Yeah.
He does make a point saying they're going to be out there now. They got to be out there selling the message. And he goes, really, a lot of America don't want to really hear either of them when they start talking.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, let's see where this one goes. Here we go. This is on CNN last night.
And quite easily, both party leaders dispatched, the opposition and are going to be the nominees. We're going to have a long general election. They're going to fight about the economy. They're going to fight about, and they already don't wear very well with most Americans. And I wonder.
Let's be honest. I mean, you talk about what the job of the Biden campaign, and they do have to have a narrative about where he's leading the country and where Trump would lead the country. But this is going to be trench warfare.
Well, and
they're going to be spending more time talking about Donald Trump than Joe Biden, and he's going to be spending a lot of time talking about
Are they going to be
Biden.
hiding in trenches? I mean, are they going to be... are they going to be on the campaign? What is the campaign going to look like?
Yeah.
Are there going to be debates?
It is going to be
I think that's an open question.
If I were Biden, I would stay hidden, and I'll tell you why. He doesn't inspire confidence, and he's not a great messenger for himself. He has done a tremendous job for this economy. Union members, union leaders are racking up win after win. They should be put forward. There are clean energy executives in red states that are putting people to work and solar, everything. They should there's something wrong with this campaign where we're somehow expecting Joe Biden, who frankly hid during the last campaign, to come out now and be Flash Gordon and save his own campaign. The people who are benefiting from the Biden economy and they exist should be empowered to speak.
Boy.
They exist.
Yeah.
By the way, I just saw the story that private union membership at its lowest level ever.
By the way, he just said something that I don't know if I predicted it, but I believe may happen, and that is Biden needs to stay home and let only surrogates speak for him.
We said that earlier in the show.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was much of a prediction, but
who's the surrogate?
Anybody but Biden.
But as I stated earlier, I don't know a surrogate who can sell Biden.
No.
I don't know. And he's saying
going to do that.
You should get what? You're going to get the union leaders are going to be out there convincing America to vote for Biden?
Yeah, probably not.
The radical union leaders that exist today? Well, I agree with you. Let's get Randy Weingarten out there, and she can be from the teachers union, and she can convince America to vote for Biden.
Right. She should be in all the ads. Please make that happen.
You can tell Van Jones is completely lost. They have no idea. And the faces on, I wish you could see some of the faces on some of the liberal panelists. They were like the realization that he can't campaign.
Well, he's, and Van Jones is just, look, the captain's not in control. Anybody but him.
I love this. We're reading this from the Washington Examiner. Jones' remark were met with shock from the other members of the panel, one of whom instead characterized Biden's campaign as disciplined.
Disciplined. All right.
But see, that's the kind of thing. That's the surrogates that are out there now.
Mm-hmm.
The surrogates that are out there now are gaslighting you.
Yep. Yeah. And it's all he has.
What do you mean? Biden is so clear-headed. The economy is doing unbelievably great.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, well, you can't say that because the economy is, what are prices?
He's smart. He's energetic. He's
right.
Nope.
He's smart. He's energetic. He's right on top of everything. You don't see this? What's wrong with you?
I mean,
that's where the gaslighting comes in.
While everyone is looking at all of the images and videos of him being the exact opposite. You're bombarded anytime he's out. If you're on social media, you see it over and over again. The mainstream media wants to ignore it on their social media. But, that audio cut we played yesterday made its rounds on social media regardless of what the liberal media wants to do. Because it's important. Because people look at that and say, he doesn't have 4 more years in him to be a president for 4 more years. By the way, have we heard anyone say those words?
What?
4 more years? Referring to Biden?
Well, when you see, and they talk, this is a National Review article writing about that and the Van Jones story. The New York Times Siena College poll conducted from October 22nd to November 3rd indicated anxiety around Biden's perceived frailty, with 71% agreeing strongly or somewhat with the claim that the 80-year-old is too elderly to be an effective president, and 62% saying he lacks the mental sharpness for the role. On the other hand, only 39% believe the same about Trump's age, 77. A CBS News poll from September found that only a third of voters believe Biden would finish the second term, suggesting most Americans suspect he will either die in office or deteriorate to the point that he must resign. Look, you and I have talked about this, and again, I'm just not complimenting my father, but I talk to my dad every day. My dad's 97. Mm-hmm. My dad was slowing down, and I was wondering, a little bit mentally over the last year. Mm-hmm. And then we found out, that through his physicals and everything else that he had a very, very slow heartbeat that can happen to you when you get old. Mm-hmm. So he got a pacemaker put in. Now his heart's pumping at twice the rate of what it was before. And, and so I noticed a little bit, but then, boom, he gets the pacemaker. He's sharper than Biden at 97.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now, I wouldn't say my father should be president of the United States. He doesn't have the physical capability to do so, at 97. But his mind is sharper than much sharper than the president's.
Mm-hmm.
And since he got the pacemaker and more blood is flowing and getting to the brain, I think that might have been a problem there because he still does. I showed you the video from a couple of years ago where I happened to walk through the door when I went and visited
Great
him and
video.
sat down and he just monologued for an hour and a half.
Yeah, yeah.
And and so
it reminded me of his demeanor reminded me in those moments of Milton Friedman.
Yeah, I can see that with my dad. Yeah. Just explaining things that.
Right.
Boy, could the Republican Party ever use a Milton Friedman today?
Oh my gosh,
huh?
Yeah.
Seriously,
it'd be great.
They really could. Somebody that could explain the economy because
and talk the ideas.
Yeah, really could. But and so it's not just the age,
right?
Because you can be very, very aware still at 80, 82, 80. My father was fine. My father was still consulting companies and his company up until he was till they actually went out of business. But he was because he wasn't there to consult them every day. That's what I say. No, but he was still consulting they'd still call him and ask him things, and occasionally he'd come in and talk. He was in his late 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what's his name? The billionaire, Murdoch.
Mm-hmm.
How old is he?
You mean Warren Buffett?
Warren Buffett.
Oh, he's in his 90s now.
Yeah. And so you can still be quite effective. It's whether you get some form of dementia or Alzheimer's starts hitting you and the cognitive problems that you have there. And obviously the president does, but they're denying it.
Right.
His family denies it. Everybody denies it. And then try to sell you that he's the sharpest person in the room. Well, everybody knows that's a lie.
Warren Buffett is 93.
Okay.
Yeah. My dad's 91. His mind is sharp. Physically, obviously, he's slowed down. But his mind is sharp.
Yeah. And so it's a thing where, it's his cognitive abilities to process thoughts and then speak about them.
Yeah.
And, we're not laughing at that. We laugh at the humor is in the response of his family. I mean, it's terrible that they do that, but it's so terrible to the point of humorous when they gaslight that no, he is the quickest and most energetic person in any room that he's in.
Uh-huh.
You can't see that? And
right.
That's the you can't see that or the duh. That's where the gaslighting comes in.
Right.
That the truth that you see is not what you see.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but the public knows it. You can't hide it. The public knows it.
No, you can't hide it.
And
those images, again, play over and over and over
Well,
again.
when do they start hiding them then? Because he's still out doing things. And every time he does it, this is where social media has an impact on elections where it never had before.
Yep.
Every time he speaks and makes a horrible mistake,
it's going to get tons of play.
It becomes virtual.
Yep.
Yeah. 866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I see that story, CVS store to close in D.C. after thieves ransacked location for months. You walk in there, the shelves would be bare so much of the time.
Yeah.
They were showing the pictures of it. Just
right.
Bare shelves completely.
Right.
And, you and I talking earlier about, the population shift and what's going to happen in state economies and things like that. And
big part of that is crime. People don't want to live like that. Companies can't do business like that.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.